with Ben, our CEO, and also Judy, who is in town. Judy is the head of our aesthetic medicine, plastic surgery, and wellness practice within our management consulting team. And we are here today to talk about the state of the aesthetic medicine industry.
Excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm very excited to be here.
So figure, today we can have a conversation really looking forward to 2026 and what we're looking forward to and expecting to see. And of course, looking backwards and talking a little bit about all the fun that 2025 brought, because it was yet again another fun, exciting year in the medical aesthetics industry.
It was.
Great. So, I think maybe just to start us off, I've been thinking a lot about sort of what's ahead, and I think many folks in the industry are really excited about 2026 as sort of yet another inflection point in the industry. So curious how the two of you are thinking about that and what you're expecting to see as we look forward.
I'll jump in. I think what I'm most looking forward to and really seeing momentum is the whole wellness and longevity. Regenerative medicine. I mean, it's a bigger category than just wellness these days. And, we've just gotten a little bit of a taste of it, but it is not just accelerating. I mean, it's here. It is really here. I just got back from A4M's Longevity Fest, and there were over 5,000 attendees there. And if that doesn't tell you how big it's become, I think that was a huge sign. So very excited about that. I think, we started to dabble with the medical weight loss and the GLP-1s, and then it's just opened this door, to broader, look at peptides and how that converges and integrates with our aesthetics practices is really seamless. I've said this before, but in the practices that I've been involved in, I think we were integrating hormones and medical weight loss back in 2010. So this is not new. It's just become such a broader, more accepted, and there's so much more science behind it. So I think looking at the future, looking at 2026, I think our practices and our population is really going to be looking towards that evidence-based medicine that's coming from that space, the regenerative longevity medicine.
Very exciting.
I think for me, totally agree with what Judy said. In fact, we used to say, we're in aesthetics, which we broadly define as cosmetic derm, core medical spa, and plastic surgery. And now we say all of that, and we say also we're seeing increasingly anything wellness, longevity, functional medicine flowing under that umbrella. And I think that's just so exciting for aesthetics and just a great space that we're in. And we're at the forefront of it, which is exciting. I think in addition to that, from a market perspective, what we're seeing from the investment banking side is if you go back to 21 or so, you started really the heavy consolidation of the space from acquiring groups. Well, that was about 4 years ago now. And what does that mean? Now you're getting to that hold period where we're hearing rumors of some that are preparing to go to market this year and next year, which means that they'll start preparing now. And very excited to see where they'll trade. And if we look at some of the larger ones that have traded in the past year or two, what we're always looking at is how's the market reacting to these? What are they going to trade at? Because it really lets you know from an investor consumer market perspective how excited people are. And they're trading at really nice valuations, which means that for our clients, the founder owners typically, when we take them to market, it means their valuations are going to hold, which is very exciting for them to be able to monetize that asset. And then if we look at the space as a whole, looking at next year, I think it's just a very exciting time because the market is ripe for consolidation. The buyers have gotten over some of the concerns around, Judy, you mentioned GLP-1s, anything overly indexed in that, it still makes buyers nervous, but I think folks are increasingly becoming a bit more comfortable with it to a certain percentage point anyway, in addition to some of the provider risk that I think folks skin their knees on, and certainly 24 and 25 as well. So there's a lot more diligence on that. But I think the market is starting to figure that out to meet that concern, which is exciting.
I completely agree, and I think that the excitement is palpable in this space. Another thing I've been thinking a lot about, and I think it goes hand in hand with the longevity and wellness piece, is this word precision healthcare. Precision healthcare is something I'm hearing more and more of, and I've been thinking a lot about the fact that aesthetic medicine is precision healthcare. Every treatment you do to a patient is specifically designed to their goals, their face, their age, their makeup. And it's so fascinating that internal medicine isn't sort of there. And I actually think that the wellness longevity sort of industries, or that's what we're calling them right now, in many ways are hoping to do the same. It's, internally and externally, what is the treatment plan that you need? What are your goals? And how do we get you there in a really wonderful way, like in a wonderful clinic with a wonderful experience with providers you trust? So it's really fun to see the convergence of those two things.
Yeah, that's really why the diagnostic element is such a key part of that space.
Yeah.
There's so much testing available, and from as easy as put your finger here and find out, what your antioxidant level is or something like that. I mean, there were so many different things. But the fact that they are diving in and really analyzing that and then customizing your treatment plan, it's the same way we look at the skin, and, we have diagnostic tools there too, with skin analysis and volume loss and looking at those things. And your treatment plan should be customized. It should be precision. So I love that word. It makes a lot of sense. I think it's also very proactive. And that's a change.
I do think that is a change. And I think especially within women's health and the sort of sanctioning finally of hormone replacement therapy, I think folks are looking to treat things before they become a problem. And I think we see that especially in the perimenopause and menopause sort of area of healthcare.
I think we see it in a lot of areas actually too. It started when we started with bioidentical hormones, really trying to kind of bring you back to that youthful level. So for men and women, really. But the addition of certain peptides that can enhance that. And also, I learned about so much, I can't even, state it all in words, but, examining the gut health and microbiomes and things like that, there were so many elements that add up to you just really living your best life and feeling your best throughout. I think women have gotten a raw deal for a long time. And so, yes, I'm very happy about that too, that shift that's happened. And I do think that there's probably, I think someone said 22 years of unlearning that we have to re-educate folks. But I'm really happy to see that there are a lot of providers out there really preaching and showing us the way.
And just the holistic treatment is fascinating to me. I was speaking with one of the leaders in our space, and she has a fantastic practice. And she already had, aesthetics from a med spa perspective. So the way she described it was fascinating. She said, so that you're beautiful on the exterior. Like we've done that for quite some time, and people feel good, and people then want more. So then they've also had the wellness component already for quite some time. She said, so now you're treating the interior, and now you're feeling even better. And she said, but some of our patients, she realized, were still not overly happy. So now she's actually including the brain side of it. She's actually hired a doctor that works with that. Yeah. So now you're truly treating the person externally, internally, and mentally. And I thought that was just so fascinating. I mean, you're talking about, the type of treatments here that are truly for you, the specific patient. And I thought that was just a fascinating thing, and everything that you can do within aesthetics.
Yeah, if you start treating brain health, depression, sleep deprivation, sleep is a big focus too. All of those things. Think about the amount of stress you could avoid on the actual body, right? And so that is all very preventative to me. I'll be the one chasing it because I'm a little late for that to try to get, back, but I love that it's available, and it does seem like a younger generation is also embracing these protocols and treatments options.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, Ben, what you were saying about sort of expanding the aperture of when people are starting to feel better internally and externally, and what that means, we were just looking at, we were doing a project on the consulting team, and we were looking at data around confidence and sort of affinity to spend when someone has sort of successfully or still is on a journey of weight loss. And, unsurprisingly, confidence will peak. But also really interestingly, folks indicate a willingness to or desire to spend more in corresponding categories. That may be ability or desire to spend more in fitness and fitness-related things, in diet and nutrition. I think aesthetics would be another category. But again, just to sort of show, if done well and done correctly, all of these things can go hand in hand. And historically, I think this has been really limited to folks who can afford concierge medicine. Mm-hmm. That's where folks were truly getting precision medicine, longevity, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really fun for me. I think this is also sort of a democratization of the healthcare that all of us should be getting. And I'm really excited to see that accessible to more and more people, mm-hmm. and of course, earlier on in their journeys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, concierge medicine, another exciting space, but you're absolutely right. I've thought of that same thing as well, which is, middle class, for example, can now afford these things. And so you're talking about, losing weight. And as you said, once you do that, because we've had fad diets forever, but that requires so much discipline. And what that does is, how do you then, if you're not successful there, it just sets you up for failure for everything else. And what GLP-1 and things of that nature have been able to do is, well, now you're losing the weight. Now you've seen the results. It's a lot easier then when you're maybe step 5 versus 0 to add on other things, because it's less daunting. Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. It just opens up the market. And as you said, like the younger generation, they're truly prioritizing wellness, which is, also exciting when demand meets supply. And you look at reports, even like what it does for our nation, the trillions of dollars that it saves from an obesity perspective, and, some of the tangential diseases that come with that. It's just a very, very exciting time.
Yeah, I would add that, thinking of it from a business perspective too, that your patients now, the whole practice has become less transactional, so to speak, and more about that long-term planning. Right. Like, let's build a plan for you, and the stickiness with patients is there 100%, because once you start to feel really good internally, you don't want to give that up. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the lifetime patient value and just that recurring revenue that happens for a business is, really incredible for our practices that are really focused on it. Yeah. I think it's also really motivating for some of our providers, because I think there are a lot of providers that have come to aesthetics from maybe traditional healthcare, mm-hmm. and got a little, frustrated or disappointed in treating sick people in and out, and their hands were kind of tied in how they could really truly help them. So they turned to aesthetics initially because I just want to make someone feel good and look good and build their confidence, and they do that. And now actually opening the door for them to be back to a little bit more medicine-based or prescriptive-based and proactive, and really help someone feel mm-hmm. good, is really motivating to a lot of our providers.
That's such an interesting point. And I think, when you poll providers, oftentimes continuing education is mm-hmm. sort of the top of the list in terms of priorities, in terms of even compensation, right? It often is above just comp. And obviously incorporating and adding new treatment modalities comes with an incredible amount of learning. So those two things go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Also, to your point on the treatment plans, we were looking at some data. We were looking at, for a client, retention over time. We looked at average retention of patients who were just doing aesthetic services and an average retention of patients who were doing just wellness services. And we looked at those patients that were doing both. We saw an incredible uptick in terms of patient, and to your point, Judy, LTV.
Yeah.
So what a powerful tool. And, increasingly I tell patients or our clients, like, your patients will be getting these services. It's just a matter of if it's with you. And so you might as well, especially if someone is receiving both sort of that inner and outer health, it might as well be the same practice, and that's how you have a really sticky base.
And how do you balance that was my favorite chart that we had, by the way. That was
nice
fascinating.
curve,
It was great. How do you balance when you work with folks the want to treat someone holistically, yet still keep a focus of don't do everything for everyone. You need to be focused as a business. And then when you mix in margin, how does that work? Like, what are some good tips there, if I'm thinking of adding all these things?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the first part of your question. I think it's really important that our practices don't go chasing what's hype and trendy. We can say that GLP-1s are trendy in a way, and there is some, fear, right, and unsettlement about, how long-lasting is this. But a GLP-1 program or medical weight loss program in and of itself is no longer really a one-hit wonder. You can't just open that service line without looking deeper and further. And so I think, the best way to be prepared is, well, one, it starts with education and who you have on your team, right? We really have to ensure that they're doing their research, they're getting the education, they're getting the credentials that they need to be able to offer these types of treatments. And, that's where the stickiness starts, right? And just making sure, and I think it's also just a trend in our whole patient base is that our patients want to trust. They want to trust that what they're getting is credible, science-backed treatments. The second part of it is, we're early on the scope of figuring out margins there, but, analyzing, this is where data comes in. We have to track everything, right?
That's right.
So keeping track of your initiatives and how each of them are doing and being nimble to pivot where it's not making sense is really, really important. So really always checking back to your data.
I will never disagree with that, Judy. So one of the things I was thinking about was, if we were here this time last year, what are some of the things that we have felt like have changed most, sitting here today since this time last year in terms of the industry? Because this is, in my experience, one of the industries that just changes most rapidly, which is so exciting. So always kind of fun to reflect on what that was.
Yeah, I think for us, it's almost Judy's intro, honestly. This time last year, I'm thinking back, some of the investors would call us, and you were in an environment where some of the consolidators had skinned their knees a little bit. They grew very, very quickly. They didn't, solidify the team, the leadership team, the management team. We talked about provider churn being a very, very big risk. And they would ask us, they'd call us to pick our brain, like, is this concerning from an overall market perspective? And our answer was no, because at that point in time, we did have things like GLP-1. You had some whispers of some of these things opening up. And we also worked with a lot of clients that were figuring out some of those risks from a provider perspective, whether that's better training academies, and so forth. And I think groups were also doing the same. So we started seeing that market demand being met. And then you look at this year, and investors aren't, they're always worried, of course. You never want risk. But now the market just continued to open up to basically Judy's intro. Now we have wellness, longevity, functional medicine. These are very exciting things that a lot of our clients that are doing those, they're being rewarded for that. So it's just opened up the market and been absorbed by aesthetics to where it's, in my opinion, de-risked it. You're going from I'm simplifying here, but you're going from okay, there are injectables, energy-based devices, skincare. and then the beginning of GLP-1, if you will, into a much broader service offering that can be serviced within an aesthetics practice. So I think that has been, for us anyway, the theme of 25 is seeing some of that in there.
And it might be viewed as slightly less discretionary too. As we get into healthcare, I think that's oftentimes the worry from investors is to what extent is this, if there's a macroeconomic shift, folks will get nervous and stop spending. I don't necessarily think that is the case, but when you get into healthcare, I think there can be a lot more confidence that there are not only more options, but it's healthcare, and that's something that's important to maintain.
Yeah, I think one of the common themes we kept hearing all last year and maybe for the last couple of years is that our consumers are looking for more natural results, right? And so that's shifted how they've approached their treatment plans and what our providers are offering. So, okay, longstanding theme again is like, HA fillers are down, but biostimulators are really up. And guess what? Energy-based devices are really coming on strong as well, because what they do is stimulate your body's own natural ability, to stimulate elastin, collagen, et cetera. And I think our consumers are really looking for any type of treatment that is just a little more quote-unquote natural, and gives them a more long-lasting result as well.
Yeah, and even younger and younger folks we're seeing in the data are doing energy-based devices, and those are high-ticket items early on in their journey. The other thing that I think has been such an exciting shift to see is, it's such a new industry that oftentimes we'll face problem statements that our clients are experiencing, but not necessarily have a lot of solutions for them. We do a lot of work in dental, for example. Dental has so many technology solutions, so many vendors, so many consultants. And so typically speaking, if there's a pain point your client has, there's probably a good solution for it. What's been so interesting in aesthetics, even a year ago, for example, there's maybe 0 to 1 standalone inventory management tool. Right, and so it's been really exciting to see. I think folks are noticing this is an industry with increasing TAM. It is here to stay. It's only going to grow, and so more and more folks are coming in and building really exciting tools. And for me, that's so fun to be able to bring just better solutions to our clients so that they can do what they do even better.
Yeah, that technology is critical, right? It's critical to a well-run business to get the data that we need, and I do finally see some connectivity between systems for practice management where our practices are demanding it. Like, I want my CRM to marry my practice management system and my EHR, and I want all the tools to be connected. And so we see more and more and more of how those those software companies are really approaching it, trying to tackle being the all-in-one solution, or are there some data aggregators, that are sitting on top that are helping create those dashboards to have quicker view? I think our practice owners are becoming much smarter, and certainly with the influx of the investment side and platforms that are building, and just attention to even your single owners and growing practices, right? They're becoming more savvy, and they know that they need better systems in place, and it's forcing a change and a shift that has been so needed in this space. Our technology has been so all over the place, so it's really nice to see some of that coming together.
Yeah, and demanding more.
Yeah, I mean, we said it years ago. Anytime you have private equity coming into a market to start to consolidate it, what happens? What happens is, if you're a business owner, you start learning over time. I mean, back in 21, folks would call us like, what is private equity? And now everyone knows, because they're getting phone calls every day about this. They're talking to their friends, and you start knowing as a market, okay, what is valuable? And so what we said early on was entrepreneurial business owners are probably going to start growing their organizations beyond one location. They're going to add more providers. They're going to de-risk their business, which, if you think about what that does, even if you never sell, that becomes very valuable to you. You can hold on to that forever. You're doing that. And there's a reason why there's value for that. It means that your business is being de-risked. It means that your business is more predictable. And then the other thing, if you think about private equity, they're, folks like us, meaning we like spreadsheets, we like numbers, we like data. It's a guilty until proven innocent from their perspective if you're valuing a business and giving you that really nice valuation. And how do you get there? Good data, predictability, repeatability, and we've worked with groups that have had not great data, and it's very difficult because it's very difficult for a buyer to get comfortable with, is this actually real? How true is this? If there's a lot of leakage there. Whereas we've worked with sellers that are extremely data-driven, and boy, private equity gets excited about that. So you're seeing this being met by technology firms as well. And as Judy said, the owners are also becoming a lot more savvy. They want that because you can run your business so much better. So it's actually quite fascinating what's happening.
That's really interesting, Ben, about you're seeing private equity still being incredibly excited about the space. I know it's something that we're asked about a lot, is what's the state of private equity? Are they still interested in this space? And I think we see it very much still being the case. How do you think about, for either one of you, what are the things that owners or providers should lean into to make their businesses stronger, whether just as a standalone business or in the eyes of, say, a private equity buyer?
Ben, earlier you mentioned provider retention, and I think that's been a critical kind of pain point in the industry. And so I think owners and practices really need to lean into that and thinking about provider retention. Like you mentioned, Annie, obviously not everyone's motivated first and foremost by money. It could be, what are my career advancement opportunities? What is the ongoing clinical education that I can receive? How do I keep advancing my skill and my knowledge? But compensation is also a piece of it. And so the best practices that I've seen be successful and continue to be successful have actually redefined some of their compensation plans to really focus on provider retention as a strategy, and really, really focus on that. And I think that's so critical because not only is it important if you're, thinking of selling or going to market, it's important for the continuity of your patient care, right? Keeping that team. And also, don't you feel better as a practice owner that you have been able to help your providers grow, and they love you for it, and they're part of the whole vision and mission that you have in growth. So one of the keys besides, addressing compensation is looking at KPIs and goal setting that aligns those incentives, not only to keep the provider motivated, but that aligns back to your practice growth. So keeping them really connected to the full vision. And yes, could I be hinting at potentially profit sharing or equity or things like that really keeps people motivated to be part of the vision? Yes, it's happening, and I love that people are addressing that. I probably did say that a year ago too, but I do see it more.
Yeah.
Today.
Well, to your point, compensation is a tool. And so if you think about what does my business need this year, and we're in the season of strategic planning, right? It's the end of the year. We're looking forward to another year. What do I need from my business this year? Okay, what does that mean I need my providers to do? And making sure that they're being rewarded for those things. And I think that's, again, just a really nice way to ensure everyone is moving in the same direction and also rewarded for moving in that direction.
Yep.
Yeah, provider retention is if you can figure that out, that's huge. As I touched on earlier, that was the big theme of 24 and some of 25 is, you lose $1 million provider, that's $200,000-300,000 of profit. You multiply that but by whatever multiple, and from a value perspective, you're thinking, okay, now this business is X times less value, X dollars less valuable, which is interesting. And the one I'd go with is another retention one, patient retention. I think that one is a big one because in one KPI, what are you getting? You're getting my feedback as a patient to your practice and organization. How do you treat me when I walk into the practice? How do you treat me from a chairside manner perspective as a provider? And then as I'm walking out the door, are you saying goodbye to me correctly? Are you rebooking me? Are you staying in touch with me and keeping me with your organization between now and my next appointment? And practices that have figured that out, and that leads into everything else, which is repeatable revenue, forecasted revenue, and so forth, and less spend on a marketing side. It takes a lot of money to bring a patient in the door. Don't let them walk out the door if you can help it. So that for us is a big one too, because it talks about operational and clinical efficiencies.
Yeah, it's huge. I think the two KPIs that we focus on almost the most is rebooking and retention, and how are your individual providers doing at that, because one leads to the other. And if you're embracing having a membership program, obviously that has inherent retention built into it and repeatable recurring revenue. So all those things are important, but it also takes me back to kind of high level about the industry and why you have to stay innovative, right? We can't just keep doing the same things, offering the same products. People age, faces age, bodies age, and this whole industry is about kind of staving off or somehow, making us all feel better and look better as we age. And I saw a really incredible stat, I'm going back to longevity, sorry, but that says people are living longer these days, but they spend about the last 12 to 14 years of their life feeling miserable. And I've seen it, and in my own family and things like that, it's really painful to see. So the things that we can do to continue, guess what? I know some providers who have changed lives, that have changed a trajectory for people.
And that is exciting. I think I sent you this book, Judy, Peter Attia's book, Outlive. Yeah. It talks about this, that you go back a couple hundred years, and I may get the numbers wrong, but concept is correct. And if you're dying at 60, your useful life is probably 58, 59. So between death, useful life, not very much. Right now, as Judy said, you have 10 plus years of not great living. So he calls it medicine 2.0. They've been able to elongate our life. Yeah. But there's a big gap between a good life. Exactly. And so his thought was medicine 3.0 is exactly what we're talking about today, which is very, very exciting. Like truly treating your body while you can, so that your last 10 years can actually be enjoyable. And he thinks medicine 3.0 is going to go back to, let's say we die at 80, you're going to be very, very useful, very happy at 78, which is fascinating, which is our space. And that's why
have chills. It's
just really fun.
I'm not kidding. It really is. And if we can continue to make it affordable to more and more of our population, that would be amazing.
Yeah. So I'll ignore the fact that tomorrow we're having our holiday party, office holiday party, where we will not be ingesting alcoholic drinks and staying up a little bit too late. But you have to live. I think you have to live too.
Yes. It's good for mental health.
It's good for that mental that third piece.
Yes.
All right. Well, so for this last section, I thought we'd shake it up and do something a little bit fun. So I'm going to ask some questions, rapid fire questions, in terms of trendy or here to stay.
Ooh.
And you can add commentary with it, because some of these are probably merit more.
Perfect.
Okay, first, Korean skincare and its influence on American skincare and services.
Ooh, that has definitely been a trend, but I think it's here to stay. And they have absolutely incredible skin. They have absolutely incredible technology, and they're at the forefront of seeking out things that are very, very natural, finding those exosomes. I mean, they're a leader in aesthetic space, so I think they're going to continue to drive and be around. How about you?
Agree. Here to stay. It's anytime you have a society that it's part of their culture, which it is, starting at a very young age, it goes right along with innovation. If that's part of your core, you're going to naturally be a leader and innovate. And you even see it with statistics like how many people travel for treatment there, including Americans. I think we're like the number 2 market for them. Here to stay.
I would agree that one of the things I love most about the culture there is how gender neutral it is, where both men and women very commonly will go to medical aesthetic facilities and receive treatments, and there's no stigma around it. And I think we have made so much headway in this country there, but we have so much more to go.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next question. AI-driven consultations and treatment plans.
I like AI-driven lead management. I think that's really helped our world. The consultation and treatment planning, I think, borders on questionable. Mm-hmm. I think even mostly our providers are really questioning how safe that would be. So I'm not sure how far that will go.
I'm going to go with half is here to stay, half is not. Consultations, I don't think so yet. I think people still want to have that human touch and conversation with a human. I will say treatment planning is here to stay. You start seeing statistics such as AI figuring out diseases before very, very high quality doctors. Just the amount of data it has is to the minute. And so I think from a treatment plan perspective, here to stay.
All right, next question. Microdosing of trizipatide.
Here to stay. And I think it'll be similar to, I was having a conversation with actually one of our clients at a conference maybe a year and a half ago, and he put it perfectly, I thought. He said, just like he called it neurotoxin 1.0 was just, and filler, just humongous lips, like frozen everything. And we talked about it thematically today, that folks are moving more toward natural looks. And he paralleled it to GLP-1 or tirzepatide in this case, 1.0 being, hey, look, don't I look great? It's like, yes, you lost weight, but you don't look very healthy, right? So he thought that the 2.0 version of that was going to be microdosing to keep a certain type of weight, but also look healthy, whether that's muscular, like not saggy skin and so forth. And I just will always remember that. I thought he was spot on.
I'd say here to stay as well, because it also affects so many other health markers, biomarkers within your body. And that's where the science gets really exciting, because it's not just for weight loss, it's helping people's liver enzymes, their cholesterol, their heart, their brain function, all these things that I can't even list them all, that they continue to discover that it's helping. And that to me just says it's here to stay.
Yeah, I think the thing that's exciting to me about it is the cessation of addictive behaviors. Mm-hmm. So that might be intrusive food thoughts, that might be relationship with alcohol, that might be your relationship with smoking. And, I think that's just across the board, all of those things are proven to be impactful on health. And that's a really exciting thing to open up to a broader audience, even those who maybe don't want to lose a significant amount of weight.
Mm-hmm. Great point.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, it has been that wraps our rapid fire section. Thank you both so much. I think there was mostly alignment, but I think we actually got to full alignment at the end. But before we close off, any kind of parting thoughts in terms of what's next, what you're looking forward to watching next year, things to keep our eyes out for?
Yeah, from an investment banking perspective, I think about this a lot. From a macro point of view, we talked about it. 25 was not as exciting as we hoped on an M&A level. We expect 26 to be very exciting. There's, a lot of money sitting on the sidelines, folks wanting to invest. We continue to see new funds knock on our door to look for that initial platform. And that's always exciting, being part of an initial platform. And, there's scale scarcity. So we have a few clients that are fascinating because they're such well-run businesses and organizations, and they're going to get, proper valuation for that. So we're excited to see that in 26. Also excited to continue to see the consolidating groups that, we mentioned a few of them skinned their knees a few years ago, and we're starting to see them really turn into very well-functioning groups, and excited to see if any of these go to market in 26, how the market's going to react. On our end, we're very bullish that they'll get extremely attractive valuations, which should trickle down all the way to where our clients play, where business owners play. So I think it's always very exciting when you're at the forefront, and still I would say the second inning of consolidation of a market, that if you're running your business well in an environment, as I mentioned earlier, that there's that scale scarcity, that you're going to be very well rewarded for that. So to be well rewarded for the risk that you took and the time that you spent, blood, sweat, and tears running your business, I think for us that's very exciting in 26, what we're seeing.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I think it kind of leads into, obviously, my passion and what I'm excited about within, wellness and aesthetics and that convergence. I think that is my first and foremost. However, one thing I didn't mention on this podcast today is there's been a shift in leadership and leadership quality and a really focus within, and maybe it has to do with, again, heightened awareness of what the business is actually doing, how are you set up and structured, what systems do you have in place, but it's added this renewed or maybe new focus on how do I really empower my leadership team, and how do I, as a practice owner, especially our owner-operators, behave more like a leader and a business leader. And I've seen it already shifting, and I think the practices that are truly winning have been focused on that and continue to focus on that, because the stronger our leadership is, that influences, it's always top down, right? It influences the culture. It influences how you make decisions and build your strategy. So as we look at new opportunities for service lines and income and revenue, we're more thoughtful about it. We put more brain power behind it. We put more research behind it. And I think really empowering your leadership team and focusing on that is a key component of our future.
Yeah, and it also allows you to scale, right? Sort of firing yourself, if you will, and taking a step back so that your business can hopefully be a thriving, autonomous being that can do really well even without you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was a treat to talk with both of you. I could talk about this all day long.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me this morning, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this next year pans out.
Thanks for having us, Annie.
Yeah, thank you so much.